Hi, everybody. This is Honish. I'm digital marketing and content specialist, and you're listening to Everhome's Real Estate Trend Broadcast. Welcome, everybody, to this broadcast. As I said before, my name's Honish, and I am with broker owner David Bartels. How are you today, David?
Good morning. I'm doing just fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Can't complain after the holiday break. As always, you can follow David on social media at David Bartels. And we have a very mixed bag of news to cover today, a little bit of everything for everybody. But let's go backwards. It was Thanksgiving holiday. How was your Thanksgiving holiday, David? Did I lose you?
Yeah, but I'm back. Technical difficulties.
How was your holiday, David? How was Thanksgiving?
It was beautiful. I spent it in the beautiful state of New Jersey with family, and we enjoyed it very much. And the 10 days I was gone, I managed to gain 5 pounds. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but it did.
That's spectacular. I've lost weight. I just keep losing weight. For some reason now I'm on. Over the holiday weekend, I have a friend who's a tennis pro who talked me into, after 10 years playing tennis, because he teaches. And he said, no, come on. I said, I'm a beginner, and I haven't played in 10 years. You'll do fine. So here's how warped my brain is, David. I actually go out, I play okay at a beginner level. And of course, my mind immediately goes to, oh, well, I can do everything I used to do before I start training like a lunatic again. Fortunately, the pain at the end of the day from playing tennis reminded me of my age and knowing the position. Wow, tennis on Sunday, golf on Monday down in Coronado. It's been spectacular in San Diego. So I'm very fortunate. And we're all thankful to have you guys on these broadcasts and joining us live. If you'd like to join us live, go to honish.io. Click on the coaching link and you can join us live when we record these. You can ask us questions. You can go through our catalog. There's plenty of information there today. We have a lot of news to cover today, David. A little bit of everything for everybody, plus 3 new recurring segments that I just can't wait to talk about. It should be fun. So let's start off with the most valuable real estate in America. This coming to us from the visualcapitalist.com. Real estate values in the U.S. is not dispersive evenly. It's contracted in the county's larger cities. These are the top 30 most valuable cities and their explanation on why they are. And number 1, what a shocker, dude. New York, no shock there. Number 2, LA is not far behind, and number 3, San Francisco holding strong. I'm not going to go through the whole list. You can look it up, but it's Chicago, Washington, Boston, Miami. I am going through it. Miami, Seattle, Dallas, Philadelphia, San Jose, San Diego, Houston, Atlanta, Riverside. Would you believe Riverside made the list, David?
Well, what time period is that? Yeah, what time period is this from?
This is an updated article. This article came out 16 hours ago. I don't know what time span they came up with.
Yeah, because I thought I saw something that New York fell out of the top 10 for the first time ever.
And at the bottom of the list is Las Vegas for most valuable real estate. Let's see what they came up.
Valuable. That may be the.
Well, let's do that. According to real estate tycoon Harold Samuel, do you know Harold Samuel? Do you play golf with him?
I don't. Okay. But it sounds like somebody I'd like to know.
There are 3 things that matter when it comes to real estate value: location, location, location. All right. That's not an old proverb. I've heard that one. America's property is no exception to this rule, depending on the city. You guessed it, location. There are very vast discrepancies in real estate value across the country. Urging the latest data from LendingTree. They got it from LendingTree, David. The graph ranked the 30 most valuable real estate cities in America. Will also evaluate the top cities based on median value of homes and how COVID-19 impacted their market. So they're doing it real time, more or less. It still says New York. It's 2.838 in billions. To 2,838. And they say in billions. It's 283. That doesn't even make sense. But their numbers. New York has the highest real estate value in the country at 2.8 trillion. That's around the size of
Oh, that's
UK's.
cumulative. They're
That's
looking at
cumulative.
all the assets
Yep.
in the New York City. That's how they figure that.
And LA is not far behind it at 2.3, with San Francisco ranking third at 1.3. This may not come as a surprise considering the popularity of these areas. New York and Los Angeles have two of the highest city populations in the United States, and San Francisco is the most densely populated city in America after New York.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
So
They
that's
also
just
came
the
up with
cumulative value of these markets. But what I've been reading is both New York and San Francisco have been experiencing a big pullback in terms of prices. Why the rest of the market seems to be going up, and that has to do with people fleeing the city for the suburbs and more affordable housing now that they're not tethered to jobs that would be in those markets.
I completely agree with that. I was talking to someone recently about places I'd like to live, and I said, honestly, if I'm going to stay in the United States, it's starting to boil down to places like Las Vegas. At least I get the tax break. I understand the Florida thing. I just can't bring myself to live in Florida. It's just, I
Well,
think God,
having
I
been
think
born
God,
and raised there, I mean, it's there are a lot of benefits for living there. You can find everything that you're looking for, and except snow, in
accepts now.
Florida. So,
Accepts.
it's got its pros and cons. There's a time of year where it's better than others, but I can tell you, I still have family in Florida, so the thought of perhaps living there again one day in the 0% tax state crosses our mind. It's not something that I'm enthusiastic about at this point.
No, I completely agree with you. But I've also been there when it rains, David, and the sky opens up and drops water on that place.
Well,
I've
you
never
who live
seen
in
rain
San
like that.
Diego, the least amount of rainfall a year probably in the country.
Well, admittedly, I posted this yesterday on my social media that I feel bad for the rest of the country that's going through snow and cold and storms or whatever they're going through. And I'm out at it was like 69 with a slight breeze coming across Coronado the other day. It's really hard to leave here if the prices weren't so ridiculous. I mean, just now that I'm down here in San Diego proper, it's really ridiculous to live in San Diego. I don't know how people do it. I don't know what the jobs are. We've talked about this a million times. What is the job structure? One of the possible stories we were going to talk about today was that the median price went up again on California. No surprise there. How do people support these properties, David? I mean, like, where is the job market? That's what I'm kind of fascinated with. I don't know how people are doing it. When I was looking in this area, the things that people were asking for were egregious. I mean, simply egregious. You spend more day to day as a broker talking to people when they're buying. So I'm intrigued by this completely. How are people affording this stuff? California real estate is reaching the point of breaking limits of dumb pricing.
Well, I mean, for a long time, there's been an affordability issue. And for a long time, there's been an inventory shortage issue. And yet prices still keep going up. So when I first came to California, I moved from Orlando, Florida area in 1999. Okay. And, I moved out of a really fancy $200,000 house in Florida. And the first house that I bought, first of all, the little one-bedroom apartment that I rented during my transition out here was, I think the rent was like $2,200 a month, which was way more than my mortgage was for my big fancy house with a pool and
Right.
in Florida. And I remember going to buy my first house, and I think the first thing I bought out here was a townhouse And I don't remember what we paid for it, but it was $350 or $400,000. Now this was back in 2000, and it was quite a shock to me to be able to do that. And so the way that, and even though I had a great paying job, but I remember my boss at the time when he and I were talking, and I was whining about affordability way back then. Okay, he said something that was pretty profound. If you've got a good job, it's completely affordable to live in California, and that's proven by millions of people, every single day. So if you've got a great idea or a good job, California is absolutely positively the way to go, in spite of the taxes, in spite of the regulatory environment, and in spite of the challenges with housing prices. And when you and I've always thought about that ever since then. And I wasn't in real estate then. I was in the software business in the automotive industry back then when they brought me out here to do that. And so when now I apply that to what we're doing now, first of all, the number of 1 million plus homes is going higher. The number of transactions is going up. It's not going down. Those $1 million plus properties seem to be selling better than the lower end stuff. Interest rates also are, the lower interest rates are making those houses more affordable than they used to be. They used to be. And there's less competition in that over $1 million price range. We can look at the millennials, which are now the largest group of home buyers, not home sellers yet, but home buyers are the millennial. And there's a new wave of people who are looking to make the leap into home ownership, especially those that are in jobs that require them to be in a corporate office until now, that we're in a big city. So it doesn't really make sense for them to live in those dense spaces. So there's a lot more competition. But the reality is that, the people who really struggle with affordability, that have under $100,000 a year household incomes, those people they're getting help from their families, and we're seeing multiple families buying houses together. Now, today I live in a house that's valued over $1 million from my humble beginnings of whatever it was, $350,000, way back in the day. And the way that we did it, or the way that I did it, and my wife did it simultaneously, and when we bought this house, together, we were fortunate enough to pool our resources in order to do it with very little mortgage. But we're the classic move-up buyer, and so right. That's really what you're seeing a lot of. There's plenty of move-up buyers that are harvesting their equity and leveraging that to move up into these more expensive price ranges and keeping their mortgages in an affordable range. Then there's a lot of inherited wealth of people that are passing that down, but a lot of people are house rich and with reasonable cash flow, and the market is basically giving them a boost up into these higher home prices. So it still is tough. I mean, I worry about these youngsters coming and trying to buy a house, but somehow they're figuring it out, and we're seeing a lot of parents helping kids today too that we didn't usually see. So those would be some of the ways that they're doing it.
I'm stuck in the cousin Vinny mode of, do the laws of physics not apply here in California? I mean, if a house costs $200,000, is lumber more expensive here in California? Is construction that's kind of where I'm.
The land is more expensive.
Location. You're buying the land, you're buying the view, you're buying the weather.
And it's driven by demand. I mean, it's
sure.
Look at Bitcoin hitting. If you take a look at what's happening with Bitcoin, which just hit a record high, and for no reason at all, right? Except it's becoming more available. It's a pure momentum play. And when you have such tight inventory and such high demand, it's just really driven based on that. And as long as we have an inventory shortage, and there are plenty of good paying jobs, and people are wanting to stay, you're going to continue to see these prices go up. I mean, I'm a little shocked at how fast they're going up during COVID. But nonetheless, there's no reason for these prices to go down. And for everybody who thinks that we're going to have a crash, and we've been talking about this since COVID, and I've been saying no, no,
Right.
no, no, no. For maybe my voice is seems more reasonable nowadays because there's absolutely no evidence that prices are going to go down, and there's a lot of evidence that prices are going to go up. So
Yes. And we're actually going
I
to talk
think that
about one of
it'll
those.
moderate. I think the rate of appreciation is going to slow, but they're going to continue to go up in 2021 as we have what I think is going to be the biggest real estate year in history.
Yes, I believe that too. And it's going to be based on one of our stories here coming up, but Biden has some plans. With that said, I was going to do my two Utes, but I won't segue there. I'll just go on to the second story.
Okay.
This coming to us, two Utes. What's a Ute? Forbes.com, with record real estate prices, now is a good time to sell your home. This coming to us from a lovely man by the name of Noah Kirsch, who handles real estate for Forbes. Things are coming to a boil in the market for U.S. homes, and it may be the right time to sell. In October, prices for homes across the U.S. registered the fifth largest monthly gain since 1996 and the strongest in 15 years. The heat is coming from the mix of factors, including limited inventory, suburban migration, and rock bottom interest rates. That's what David just said, if you were paying attention. According to a recent report from the Federal Housing Administration, U.S. home prices rose 7.8% in 12 months, ending in September 30th, the fastest climb in more than a decade. The typical U.S. home appreciated by 1% in October alone to $262,604, the best monthly gain since the fall of 2005. Leading the way on the known coastal states out of the West, Idaho jumped the most, actually, with a year-over-year increase of 14.4%. The surge was fueled by Boise. Of course it was. It's a beautiful city, where the values have surged for decades as the city offers amenities. With all of that said, David, are you shocked that nationally numbers are all holding up and everything is looking sunny and rosy for the real estate market, as we just talked about previously?
I'm really not. I'm really not that surprised. I mean, I'm surprised at how much it's up, but I'm not surprised that it's active. And people, when you have these low interest rates and you have extra time and you have some stability in the in the marketplace with this low inventory, it doesn't surprise me at all. I think that you're going to see this pattern continue. Now, I'm admittedly not an expert in what's happening outside of Southern California, but I can tell you that in talking to agents from all over the country, they seem to be reporting the same conditions that we're having, except their average home price is much lower than ours. But aside from that, their markets sound exactly like ours in terms of supply and demand and multiple offers and limited inventory and high buyer demand. So people are out there, and maybe it's just because they have extra time now. Because they're I don't think anybody's as productive as home as they would be in an office place. And so maybe 20% of the time, instead of working, they're looking on Zillow for a house. I don't know what's happening, but there's a lot of people looking for properties when they ought to be working. So well,
it's something to do. It's I agree. It seems to be a pastime of one of the stories that I was kind of proofing for this story brought up Zillow, and I was thinking to myself, yes, because they're always so accurate with pricing. I think Zillow's created an opportunity for people to understand at least the value of their real estate and the adaptation to the market of having a digital influence where they can go almost literally at any point. You can go and get the value of a house. You can make a phone call, find out the value of what your neighbor sold their house for. These are it's all public data. And now we live in an age of technology for most, not everybody's technologically savvy, but most, where you can go and get this data and it makes you more savvy. At the end of the day, it's your biggest investment, period. And people are starting to treat it that way. And the numbers seem to dictate it. I mean, this is the old banker in me. I know that people believe that there's security in owning a home and having a home, as a commodity, as a piece of, as a piece of tangible something that they can hold on to. I still live in a world where I believe that it's not real. I'm not even sure gold is real at this point, David. I've seen so many markets go up and go down throughout time where it's worth everything and then it's worth nothing. Real estate historically has always managed to pull itself back up by its bootstraps, but it inevitably crashes. And when you're talking about right time to sell, it's cliche, but is now the right time to sell?
Well, I'm getting asked that question. In fact, I was away and my neighbor was picking up our mail, and I went over to get it yesterday, and she's been talking about moving, further south. And she asked me, well, I think that I'm ready to sell, and but should I do it now or should I wait till after the first of the year? So that was the premise of the question. And so here's my answer. My answer was, well, I think that if it's the good time to sell is when no one else is selling, because it's a very limited inventory. I said I can make a very strong case that now is exactly the right time to sell, because there are a lot of people having conversations with their realtor, just like you and I are having, where they're planning to come on the market the first of the year. Well, if there are tens of thousands of like-minded people, then those people represent competition. Meanwhile, in talking to at least my buyer agents, they're still reporting very active buyers, and they're still reporting multiple offers on properties they're trying to secure for their buyers. And we're still seeing multiple offers on our listings. Okay. And so that makes now a very good time. Do you want to be a big fish in a smaller pond or a small fish in a bigger pond? So the worst thing that'll happen is you get on the market right now and you don't sell. But the next great time to be on the market is not next year. The next great time to be on the market is December 25th. And the reason that you would want to go on the market on December 25th is that Zillow has reported in the past that the week between Christmas and New Year's is the busiest week for online traffic on their site.
It is.
We talk about this every single year. This seems to remain true. And so there's not a lot of transactions, being done there, but you're seeing a lot of buyer activity, and then the action really heats up after the first of the year as buyers and sellers shake the holidays and say, okay, now the first of the year is over, now we get going, and then it builds and builds and builds until March or April. Now, because we don't know what's going to happen with COVID and politics and climate change, or the things that people are thinking about lately, I try to encourage people to focus on what we know versus what we think we know or what we hope will happen. And so right now, today, it would be a very good time to get on the market and list your house where you really take advantage of high demand and low inventory. And then if you're not ready to go on the market now, at least get your photos taken now so that you don't have Christmas decorations in your photos, and then go online on December 25th so that you can take advantage of that onslaught of traffic that we're anticipating, and it won't look like an aged listing. If you list it in January, if you haven't sold it, it doesn't look like an aged listing because it's got a lot of Christmas decorations there.
Right.
And then otherwise, then you go on and see what we don't know is we know a lot of listings are going to come online in January, but we don't know whether or not there's going to be enough buyers to support it. And so we don't know what the supply and demand matrix is going to be. We don't know, whether or not there's going to be an imbalance. It's going to get worse for buyers and better for sellers, or worse for sellers and better for buyers. It really just depends on how things flesh out. But it seems to be it's going to be a very hot, very competitive marketplace. And then you've got the stuff coming up in March and April where you've got these forbearances that are coming to an end, because that's when those forbearances started from COVID. And those people who still aren't in a position to resume making their mortgage payments are going to be forced to sell versus foreclosure. That's going to add more inventory into the market. And again, we don't know if buyer demand is going to be strong enough in order to absorb that extra inventory. So we're going to have the pent-up seller demand that we already have, with people waiting till the first of the year to go on the market. And then you're going to have another wave of people who don't want to sell but have to, because they need to harvest the equity out of their house in order to survive. They're going to want to downsize or just get their cash out of the walls of the house and sit on it. So those two factors really make now as good a time as any to get your house on the market. That's not to say that waiting until January is going to be worse. It just means we know now would be great, and everything else we don't really know.
Moving on to our featured story. Oh, pro tip, by the way. Wait, let me throw in a pro tip right there before I move forward. Right. Pro tip to everybody. What David is talking about is absolutely correct. If you're launching new content, branding yourself, or starting yourself out for a brand new year of marketing, whatever your business type is, especially real estate professionals, which is what this show is generally geared towards. But hey, you could be a regular person with your own regular business. If you are getting ready to start jumping into the digital world, start now, be ready for the 25th. Good time to launch podcasts, good time to launch video pages, good time to launch the blog. Pro tip. Glad I could do that for you. Moving on to our featured story, you guessed it, how the Joe Biden presidency. I was on the radio, David. I had a radio show, I had listeners. I had a share. I had a share of the market, David. How the Biden presidency will affect real estate. Here we go. This comes to us from businessinsider.com. It was written by Natasha Solo Lyons. I just like her name. I don't know if Solo is the original name and Lyons is who she married, but here's the whole name: Natasha Solo Lyons and Libertarian Brandt. Are those two people or is it all one person? I don't know, but I just like it. Joe Biden has been elected the 46th president of the United States, and as he approaches taking office on January 20th, his policy proposal looms. His housing plan suggests big changes lie ahead for the real estate industry. Biden's stated goals, which include implementing a $15,000 tax credit for first-time homebuyers and closing the racial wealth gap in housing. So let's stop right there, David, and let's talk about this. What does a $15,000 tax credit for first-time homebuyers mean?
Well, I don't know where I lost you, but the $15,000 credit is basically a credit against taxes that are due. It's not I made $100,000, so I get a credit of $15,000, so my taxable income is just $85,000. It's better than that. It's if you owe $20,000 and you get this credit, now you only owe $5,000. So it's really it's money in your pocket, basically. It repays you $15,000 in taxes that you would have paid. And it's really hard not to pay $15,000 in taxes with the tax rates that we have.
Well, what I'm interested by that is, so we're generating more buyers by this. We're giving people, it doesn't do anything.
It's going to bring a lot more buyers into the marketplace for sure.
That seems counterproductive, but it'll drive prices up. Let's see. The article goes on to say,
they're trying to tackle this thing we were talking earlier, is affordability. They're less concerned about the people who are making $400,000 a year than they are about the people making $50,000 a year. Right. That's what they're trying to do. I mean, I don't know if it's on your list there, but they're also talking about taking away the 1031 exchange. So again, if you're taking away the 1031 exchange, apparently it applies only to, you can't do a 1031 exchange if you make more than $400,000 in a year. Then, again, they're moving some of those tax advantages from people who are making $400,000 a year or more, and they're moving them down to people who have lower income which is one of the ways they would pay for this $15,000 credit. They want more. They want to help more people buy a home, and they don't really want to help the rich get richer via real estate. Even though I can tell you that $400,000 a year is not enough to make you feel rich.
Yeah.
So, I can tell you that.
I can tell you that as well. I would agree with that sentence. I've been there, done that, and it doesn't make you feel rich. What makes you feel rich is family and the holidays.
Well, that's
However,
on the other
family and the
extreme
holidays
too.
will not pay for Disney's reopening. With all of that said, yeah, there you guys go. So keep an eye out. And I'm going to say this as a caveat to that last article. It all has to meet with congressional approval. There you go.
They're also talking about bringing back state and local tax. You're removing those limits of $10,000 a year, the state and local taxes. And so if you pay, more than $10,000, let's say you have $15,000 a year of property tax, you're only limited to $10,000. If you pay state income tax, it used to be deductible on your federal taxes. Well, not now. So if your state and local taxes, including property taxes and state income taxes, exceed $10,000, you can only deduct $10,000. So if they remove that limitation, then it goes, where it really penalizes high in real estate value states like California, New York, New Jersey, some of those states. If they bring that back, that would also stimulate more activity on the buy side. On the high side of the transaction.
With that said, hey, this show is brought to you by Everhome. Experience the Everhome way and discover the benefits risk-free. That's right. Go to everhome.io. Explore Everhome's easy-to-use listing service risk-free and begin your journey to sell your home like a realtor. Get the benefits of massive exposure, full service representation from critical elements of negotiations, legal forms, escrow, and title for all one low set fee. Save thousands on your next transactions. And hey, if you're a real estate agent, go find out how you can be a part of a massive lead funnel. Just visit everhome.io. That's Everhome for every home. I wrote that. Moving forward to our new recurring segments. Our recurring segment known as, hey, what's going on at NAR? Yes, it's our favorite recurring segment with our favorite person, Lawrence Yoon. He recently spoke, and it was picked up by this is really obscure digging, Northern Virginia Daily website. Visit nvdaily.com. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. Winchester, job growth and the real estate market go hand in hand, even during a pandemic, according to the National Real Estate Professional. Dr. Lawrence Yoon, chief economist for NAR. If you don't know who he is, Yoon said the United States has seen 10 straight years of job growth. It is his quote, the longest economic expansion ever. He went on to say, in the month of April, we lost all of that. 10 years of job creation are gone in a single month. Interesting. But as states began to open things back up, jobs became back online. Yoon continued to say that the U.S. needs to add about 10 million jobs to get back to normal. Let's talk about this. Lawrence is worried about jobs, David. I'm worried about jobs. It's nice to see that NAR is concerned and focusing on not the great numbers, right? We all know the numbers are great. Numbers are fabulous. They're bigly. The numbers are bigly. So let's move beyond the bigly numbers. Let's talk about what's going to happen as a repercussion of people losing jobs and 10 million jobs lost. I'm really impressed, and I mean this sincerely, because my personal feeling about Lawrence is he always seems to be slightly raw numbers and less about the reality of the situation. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, how do you foresee the job situation?
Well, I know very little about jobs. But I think it's very real, and we won't really know what the impact on jobs have been until people really get off these benefits that from the stimulus package, which I hear is happening right now.
We're getting another one right now. Yeah, I got an alert Monday morning because I get news updates on this extraordinary watch of mine that told me they went back to session to go figure out another stimulus plan.
Yeah. So I don't really know how to forecast, what jobs are going, to do. But I can tell you the surge that we're seeing in terms of house buying, this buyer demand, is really based on consumer confidence. So consumers seem to be confident that everything is going to go well, but I'm certain that there's a part of the population that is really suffering, and and I'm hoping that things pick up. I know that we as a company are adding jobs very rapidly right now, but we
Sure.
are really um, and I'm talking to I'm hiring 4 to 7 people to sell our services over the phone, and we got 150 applications for 4 to 7 jobs.
Yeah.
And we of those 100 and let's call it 50, we interviewed 20 or 25 people over the phone, and then less than 10 made it to a video interview. And now we're paring that down to the 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever we decide um, today, tomorrow, to to start work with us next week. So we're trying to create some jobs, and I think that we'll see some companies take a deep breath and probably start hiring again once they feel like their businesses are going to resume to normal. We just don't know what the long-term impact is going to be on COVID. So, a guy like Lawrence, who pays really close attention to those numbers, saying that there's a crisis looming, you have to kind of take that at face value, though I'm not personally experiencing, that, but we're in a really growth phase of our business, and we find we're identifying talent that is beyond what we expected we'd be able to do. So it's been advantageous to us, and so I would encourage employers who are looking for good talent. Now might be a really good time to find some people who might otherwise have been engaged in something else.
Yeah, I
So
can tell you this for the tech market. I've kept an eye on what marketing people are making these days, and I try to keep a thumb on that in case I consult or somebody wants my services, even though I'm enjoying my semi-retirement down here in San Diego doing golf and tennis and whatever it is that I do these days. Um, they're asking most people who do what I do for a living to intern or work for free just so they can get a recommendation for their next job, which I was blown away by.
I've had a number of people offer to work for free,
Yeah, yeah,
and
I
I'm
was
like,
stunned
no,
by
I
it.
can't. I'm not doing that. If we hire you, we hire you. I'm not taking on free labor.
You'll get a great letter from us. That would have to be one hell of a great letter based on what my hourly rate is.
That's not our deal.
Moving forward to our investor segment, this coming to us from entrepreneur.com and Pepe Viarto. We'll just go through these quickly. These are 6 business models to win-win with real estate. Let's talk about these models and hear your suggestions on them, David. First and foremost is open platform, Craigslist, Cubic Meter, Zillow, Dada Room. Historically, they stated as listings or directories and became matchmaking platforms or marketplaces for one or more sectors. The focus on the volume promises to find any kind of space anywhere. Key market data has become an important differentiator, as in the case of prices on Zillow. Income models. You want to work with premium listings, ads, data service, brokers, lendings, and developers. As an investor, are you interested at all in open platforms? You're an open platform, technically, David. Going and focusing on tech.
We're a closed platform that we're trying to make open.
Right.
Yeah. So we're giving open access to a closed platform. How's that for raising what we do? So yeah, we're trying to bring technology that has previously been the exclusive domain of realtors and putting it into seller hands. Just like buyers are using Redfin or Zillow or
Right.
Realtor.com to use technology to buy a house. We're putting that technology into the hands of sellers, and that's never been done before.
With all of that said, I'm sure you're aware of this because the company is going public. How hot is it in the investor market to get involved in tech right now?
Well, real estate tech is really hot because it's one of the last industries to really put technology in the hands of the consumer. All the tech plays that you read about are really being done by real estate companies that are looking for ways to generate more business for themselves or to justify high commissions. And nobody has taken a Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, Fidelity approach to real estate, where you're actually empowering the sellers to be able to do for themselves, use technology to sell their home themselves and still get full service representation for the critical elements of negotiation and paperwork and contract disputes, those kind of things. So we think that we're really onto something from that perspective, and we're finding significant investor interest. In fact, it was a significant investor interest that really pushed us to do the public play. And so we've bought the public company that we're going to be merging into to be able to do that. The SEC work is being done right now, and the roadshow starts within a couple of weeks. And the middle to end of January will be a publicly traded company, and we anticipate significant demand from people who want a piece of the action, that we're creating. So in the meantime, we keep proving our concept every single day. And in November, we had by far the best month that we've ever had, not just the best November, the best month that we've ever had. And in terms of the number of transactions and the gross commission income. And so it goes to show that we're onto something, and we're doing no advertising really to speak of. And nobody even knows that this option is yet available.
There you go. Number 2, curated or segment platforms, including Airbnb in this category. Marketplace for a specific sector or behavior where the end customer expects certain level of experience or characteristics of the service. I will speak on this. I know specifically of people who run a model of leasing properties throughout the country, turning them into Airbnbs and doing cash flows. When COVID happened, I was extremely concerned for people because there was such a drop off. But Airbnb is a real thing. This shared segmented platform is a real thing that's not going to go away, David. You as an investor as well, how do you see shared housing, shared couch surfing, shared whatever in regards to a real estate investment perspective?
I don't know much about that, frankly. I'm really trying to get my arms around, this. I know that Airbnb, those concepts are being challenged by local ordinances and HOAs and that kind of thing, which makes it a little more complicated maybe. But I don't know. I'm not sure if I have a strong opinion. I look at real estate a lot more, a little differently than everybody else. We're really focused on making it more accessible and more affordable for people to transact real estate. We think technology makes the job of an agent and a home buyer or seller much easier, and as a result of the buyer and seller doing much more of the work, that should be reflected in the commissions that they're paying.
I will add this as someone who has a rear granny flat. I had the option of Airbnb or a renter. Renter makes more sense. It's consistent flow of money. I realize there's spike season where it could go for more money by having it Airbnb. There's also downtime. So the logic of having, I guess that makes me a traditionalist, but I do know a lot of people making money from an Airbnb model as an investment perspective. So investors out there, you might want to investigate it. If you're interested in finding out more about that particular model, I can get you to the right people. I am here to network for all of you as well. Moving forward, brokers or real estate agents. Examples: Rex, Redfin, Homey. Well, I'll even say it: Everhome for Everhome. Historically, they are intermediaries that offer a personalized service per transaction. Their greatest added value is in the content of their network. From an investment perspective, is it a good thing to own a brokerage, David? Is it a good idea to go into the business of real estate?
Well, I can tell you the real estate brokerage business is tough. The margins are really
if you
are
were an
really
investor, that
rough.
wouldn't be on the top of your list.
Yeah, you know, I think that what happens is that, I think that if you're going to be in the real estate brokerage business, you got to do it one of two ways. You got to be either really small and nimble, and you and maybe a couple of assistants showing agents or buyer agents to help with the leads, and maybe a transaction coordinator, or you need to be really big, and you're really you can create the scale because of the volume that you need. And I think most agents, and we were guilty of this too, is we got in that middle range where we knew that we had to either be smaller to be profitable or to be bigger to be profitable. And we kept spending our way to try to get bigger, and it was just harder than it looked.
Right.
And you really have to be in the recruiting business. And so, I would say for those people who really want to own their own brokerage, it is I would really encourage you to keep it small and keep it bootstrapped in terms of budgeting, or you got to have a plan to really grow it, past the 30, 40 agent size to be able to, to offset the cost of doing that. And the cost should get easier because we're realizing that we need less and less, office space and fixed expenses. So smart brokerages are leveling that stuff down, and are really focusing on the relationships and the productivity and less about, the office environment.
There you go. Number 4, aggregator franchise, Oyo, Impact Hub, Cow.tech. I would even say EXP. I mean, you're talking about companies that are offering branding and best practices to independent operators and making money on other people from an investment model. I know a lot of people, David. We've had meetings with a lot of people on the topic of, buying basically a franchise and getting other people to work and making money off of it. As an investor, it would seem very appealing, especially if you have a real estate license, to get involved with an EXP or an Oyo or an Impact Hub and start to make money on others. I worry, this is just me personally, I worry always about multi-level marketing. I just have never seen it work. I just haven't historically. Or watch a special on HBO or Netflix about said, I God bless all you EXP people that listen to the show, and I'm not trying to alienate you. I make it sound like you're your own diverse group. I worry about multi-level marketing, and I'm not going to be shocked when there's an expose about EXP as a multi-level marketing company. That isn't me putting it out there into the universe. It's just historically that is what's happened. When you're talking about being an aggregator or a franchisor, David, from your perspective, you've worked for a lot of different people, and you've also done MLMs as well. What's your experience here on this from an investment standpoint?
Well, so I can look at it from being the franchisee and a franchisor. And, I can tell you that, in my experience being a franchisee, I didn't feel like I got enough support to really justify the expenses, or did the name recognition add, any significant value. Certainly not enough value to offset the cost. In fact, some years the franchise fees, paying those fees, made the difference in being profitable and not being profitable as a corporation. And so I've got mixed feelings about it. I think that if, at the end of the day, if you started out, building your relationship, I'm not sure how necessary it is, to have to pay those franchise fees, or whether or not it makes it easier for you to build a business. I didn't find that. Okay, nor did I always thought I was in the real estate business and not in the recruiting business. So I didn't spend a lot of time trying to recruit agents. We attracted agents, but we didn't really recruit, agents. From a franchisor perspective, as we grow Everhome and we're trying to figure out whether or not we want to franchise this idea as a way of building market share, I think that we've opted to avoid doing that. We're more inclined to do the Redfin model, which is really have corporate locations. Everybody's an employee, and we really work on building everybody under the corporate umbrella. Now, having said that, we're in discussions for 2 or 3 acquisitions already right now. They're all in the state of California. Those acquisitions will start outside of California here in due time, but we're looking to begin to acquire some of these mid-level firms that have really struggled to have profitability, and basically bring them under our corporate umbrella and provide them with some support that will make an impact on their results, and really just try to grow our business through acquisition. So I'm not inclined to want to be the franchisor, and I'm not inclined to want to be the franchisee. And really, I really want to focus on doing real estate. And if you can acquire people who have a good companies of people who have a relatively good track record and a team already who's committed to success in their community, it makes sense to be able to try to put those things together and bring them under the corporate umbrella. And I think that's the path that we're going to choose going forward.
With that said, moving to our last 2 items, operator, administrator of administration company. This is actually an interesting perspective for becoming an investor. We're talking about WeWork, Kasai, Selena, Dentinalia, which I've never heard of. These are companies that you buy commercial property and turn them into flexible workspaces and then rent those out to create a cash flow model. It's actually a great idea. How is it from your, if you were an investor and someone presented this idea to you, how do you feel about it, David?
Well, I actually thought about buying a building that had that all set up and ready to go already, and we opted not to be able to do that. And why I think it's a great idea of, it's not really that different than a developer buying a very large plot of land and then subdividing it and selling smaller parcels, which in the aggregate end up allowing you to sell it for, a lot more money. And so, I think that it's one of those businesses that works really well on paper. And, and if you're not, and then you also have to look at WeWork's experience, which took off like crazy, and then they ended up aborting their public offering because it wasn't as solid as it looked, and there was a lot of controversy with the CEO and founder, which I'm not sure is even still there.
Will there be intrigue with you, David, when you go public?
Will there be what? Intrigue?
Will there be intrigue when you go public?
I hope so. That's our goal.
Me too. I'll do a story on it. I'm looking forward to it. This just in from the news desk.
We'll see. So I don't know. It's one of those things that maybe it's a commercial real estate play, and that's not really where my field of expertise is. But I like the idea of the business. I'm just not sure how. And when you're at full occupancy, it's a definite home run. The question is what kind of occupancy are you going to have? And what kind of turnover are you going to have? And those are the things I don't know. But on paper, it's a good business.
It seems very work heavy. Like you got to keep people and bodies coming in to pay for those shared space. It's a great idea. I wouldn't have thought of it till I read it. But boy, that just seems so. Which means you got to be pretty good at marketing or hire marketing people. Like there's a whole backbone and structure to this that they're not talking about. And lastly is vertical. Selena, again, use storage, companies like that, companies that build custom spaces in cheaper areas with good access to their target marketing, warehouses outside, storage facilities. hotels on benches, trendy areas with high-end markets predominantly. So they rent or buy a building according to their operational and brand needs, and then rent it with a margin. So they're building very specific, renting and building very specific spaces in these. I don't know, David. This seems like the last one, really sketchy, resellable,
Well,
or re-renting.
these are development plays. I mean, when you see we'll build the suit, that's really what
Yeah.
they're doing. And so someone's willing to come in and undertake the cost of developing a property for you to meet your individual needs. In exchange for that, you're going to pay a premium and a very long-term lease agreement. A long-term being 20, 30 years of lease agreement with incremental increases in that rate to be able to do some of that. But again, it's a development play. I mean, people make money on all these ways for sure, and there are lots of examples of people making money in all those different ways. I mean, for me, I like the simpleness of helping buyers buy and sellers sell, helping families. It's a nice, easy, clean, straightforward business. It doesn't really require a lot of luck, to be able to do it. It just really requires you to have a clear vision of what you want to do, and then go out and make sure people understand what the opportunity is that you provide and what the differentiation that you have, versus other people trying to do similar things. So, I mean, you could be in a real estate agent. More than 50% of the agents in the state of California will do 0 transactions this year. 0.
Right.
So if it were really easy, everybody would do it and everybody would be successful, but it's not easy. Having a license is not the golden ticket. Having a license just gives you the opportunity to invest in yourself and to work hard and to build your own brand and to do something. If you're not willing to work hard, and you're not willing to put yourself out there, and you're not willing to take some risk, understanding that most real estate agents take more than 6 months before they do, and many a year before they generate any kind of income, then real estate as an independent contractor is not the way to go. And this is one of the reasons why we don't bring on independent contractors. All of our employees are salary plus commission, with benefits and paid time off and stock options, those kind of things. It's more of a job doing real estate as opposed to, being a independent realtor, having to scratch for every lead and opportunity that you need in order to even attempt to make a full-time living at it.
All right, okay. Moving to our next recurring segment. Recurring. I feel like I need an echo there. That's me breaking the fourth wall yet again, David. Recurring segment, because I wanted to cover everything with the recurring segments. This time we're talking about real estate agents. Yes, you guys right there. This is your segment right here. I have not read this in advance, so this is the one that I get to smile most about because this is the one in my ballpark. But I'm sure David will be the voice of sane reason because I'm sure I will go off the deep end on this particular article that I pulled. And it's from RIS Media. Do they call it RIS Media or RIS Media? I've always wondered that. And is RIS an acronym or an abbreviation for something else for RIS Media? RISmedia.com.
All of that is true.
All of it, all of the above. This comes to us from Joe Cesso, author and national speaker for Homes.com. There you go. And that's what I'm going to say for you from now on, David. I'm going to be author and national speaker for Everhome, for Everhome. I'm not even going to. So this is his top 10 tips to generate listings ninja style. Yes, that's why I'm salivating on this topic already, David. He took a softball for the first one. Know your warm list. I don't even need to go any further on this. I agree already. Kendall began sharing tips on knowing your warm list. Your warm list will include people who want to sell, are unsure if they want to sell, and may want to sell. When you reach out to those people on your warm list, pay attention to those who may have changes in their lives and that might require them to sell their homes and move into a new home. David, how many times? So far, he's 1 for 1 on my okay marketing standard. We've talked about it a million times. You're only as good as your list.
It's the number one most important asset that you have. If I were forced to leave what I'm doing and I could take one thing with me, it would be my list.
If
All right.
you were
Without
going
the
on,
list, you are nothing.
if they made a version of a loan for real estate agent and you had your survival items, as a real estate agent in a new city, I would have my list and my cell phone, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
No, it's a really simple concept, and a lot of people don't want to pitch their friends. That's really detrimental. At the end of the day, you've got to be willing. You got to believe in what you do enough that you want to do business with your friends, and you want your friends to know that you want to do business with them. You don't want to be laissez-faire and no big deal. If you want me to help you, I will. If you don't, then that's okay. No, you need to demand that they, ask you to help, when they have a real estate question. Be their realtor even when they're not doing a transaction.
I agree. And I will quote a man I'd like to call mentor and friend, Seth Godin. Go back to his first book. He makes it very clear. I think it's even on the dust cover. You're turning clients into friends and friends into long-lasting. Yeah, blah blah blah. Number 2, make client service calls. Yeah, this is strong. Now we have a digital age as well. To Kendall, making client calls is one of the best ways to generate listings. Set a time each day to reach out to your clients on your list. You can do this either. I'm going to expand on his ideas. So far, he's 2 for 2 in my book. I like calls. I'll even do something that nobody's going to believe. I'm going to say, drop a note to people in the mail. If you don't have a huge list right now, especially with COVID, a handwritten note to check up on your previous clients, skip the email, just go straight to get a little envelope, write a little note, send it off to them, and let them know you're out there and ask them how they're doing. That's it. We've talked about this before. Let's talk about it again, David. You don't have to go for the throat. Do you or anybody you know interested in buying or selling a home right now? No, it's more about how are you doing? How's the family doing? Is there anything I can do to help you, especially with COVID going on? What would you, is there anything you can add to that?
I don't know.
Solid.
Yeah, no, I have no comment.
Well, and the funny part to all of that to me is we're talking about, you and I see this as, peas and carrots, right? They're just things that go together, and you should be doing these. You should have had a brand. You should have been aware. I'm not going to beat people up anymore about their marketing on that topic. I am completely convinced that the reason people aren't getting more deals or more listings or being successful is a negative mindset, because that's all I can blame it on, because these things are so basic that it's almost painful to say them out loud going, you should be doing this. You should be doing this once a week. You should set aside a day. You should set aside an hour. If you spent 1 hour a day calling your previous clients and going, hey, are you and the family okay? You'd have more business. And then hearing people go, that will never work. That's negative self-talk. You haven't done it. So how do you know it's not going to work? And I think it's more negative self-talk than it is just beating a drum on basic real estate marketing. From your perspective, mindset, I'm going to insert a 2B here. Mindset has to be everything when it comes to looking for new listings.
Well, you just got to believe that you're going to get a listing. I mean, listen, if you got a choice to be positive or negative, be positive. You'll do anything better with a positive mindset than you will with a negative one. I mean, you could be an expert brain surgeon, and I promise that you will get much better results if you go into that surgery, with an expectation of a positive outcome versus an expectation of a negative outcome. I think that really, it really sets the tone for everything that you do.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
If you think that it's going to be a waste of time, just skip it. Save the time. Do something that you think is possible.
And here's a pro tip. When you get up in the morning and you get dressed to leave for the day and you look in the mirror, and if the first words that pop into your head say, I look terrible, say to yourself 10 times you look great before you go out and start your day. You might have a different day. Just putting it out there. I could be completely wrong about it, but I think my way is a little bit better. Real estate reviews. Okay, now we're talking content and branding, and I agree. Yelp, Zillow, everything. I don't have to read it. I agree with this. Why are you not on Yelp? Why are you not on Zillow? Why are you not on every review site there is with positive reviews? This one is another mind-boggling one to me. Forget not being on social media, which kills me anyway with a lot of real estate professionals. Let's just talk about Yelp and Zillow and all the places where positive things about your business should be, David. How many times have you personally seen in your own business somebody come to you because of a review they read online on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Yelp or
many accounts, and maybe more importantly than that, the reviews aren't necessarily going to help people find you, but they sway people to you. So, we talked about this in my sales meetings I had yesterday with my team, is that, there's something to be said about the importance of third-party reviews and making them, every conversation they finish with somebody, I want them sending them a follow-up email that includes a link to our reviews. Because if I say it, you can doubt it. But if 100 other people are saying that we're great, then it's not so, doubtable. Is that a word? So
that's no. Today it is.
Yeah. So, the reality is that you need the third party validation of reviews, and you should be asking for reviews on every single transaction unless you're certain that you're going to get a bad review. When we're fortunate, I looked yesterday, we have 93 5-star Zillow reviews and nothing under 5 stars. So we really want to make sure that we hammer that home when we're engaging with potential buyers or sellers. And like I said, they're not going to, I don't advertise on Zillow, so they're not going to call us because we have great reviews, but we can promote that we have great reviews, and we can take somebody who is trying to decide between 2 or 3 agents and use those reviews to stand out against everybody else. So at the end of the day, who are people going to choose? Somebody who's doing a lot of transaction and has great reviews, or somebody who doesn't do many transactions and no good reviews to speak of?
I agree. I will say it again till I'm blue in the face. There are 3 pro tip. This is 3A to this list. There are 3 reasons people will hire you. It's for any business. I don't care if you're selling pizzas or you're doing real estate. They like you, they trust you, or it's your expertise. Sorry to say it's in that order. People have to like you, and reviews are the best way. This is why I hammer content. Let people get to know you for all your good and your negative qualities. Let them see who you are. If you're going to do a podcast, be yourself. People want to build an attachment to you. All of these things that he's laying out are very congruent to that. Follow up. Get to know them. Let them know you. Just build a relationship. We're back to relationship models again, David. It really is like trust. It's like trust. I'll keep saying it. Like, then trust, and then it's expertise. And I meet a lot of people who go, "I have a lot of expertise." That's great, but you are an unlikable cuss. I mean, their cousin is going to get the listing before you because you're not a likable person. And it's not me trying to be negative. It's that people just need to soften up and let people in a little bit. And I get that we all get hardened by life. I have been on the planet for an exceptionally long period of time, it feels like. It is very easy to shut down and start to close down to relationships, and we're in the relationship business. You're going to get more business by expanding upon that. Did I miss anything? It felt very rah-rah from me. 50 live interviews. I like this already. Yes, 50 live interviews. This is number 4. I'm stealing this one. It's so good. I can't believe I'm stealing from this guy. I was hoping he was going to talk about mailers. Yes, 50 live interviews might sound like a lot. However, Kendall says, you most likely already are doing this by reaching out to your clients each week. No, they're not, Kendall. I'm looking into the camera to you, Kendall. And if you're listening, Kendall, no, most real estate agents aren't. Continue reaching out to your clients, but add a new method. Interview them. Family, friends, occupation, recreation, their dreams, and their goals. Wow, he just hit on every sneaky interviewing tip, and it's a great idea, and you can turn that into content. And this is a brilliant idea, David. This is actually a very valuable tip for real estate agents. Go and interview them. During these interviews, you're not taking time to build up your brand, but you're building up the relationship with your client and you're creating valuable content. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And it also teaches you the skill of keeping relationships. It's a good one, David. I like that one a lot. The ripple effect. This is the referral point. Yeah. You may have had the chance. These aren't ninja tactics, by the way. You may have had the chance to experience the ripple effect where you were able to gain listings through previous listings and referrals while you were trying to gain new listings. Okay, let's talk about this, David. Every listing is going to lead to another dozen, 2 dozen, probably hundreds by the time we're done. There are listings in the future based on listings you've done today. Again, we're talking about follow-up after the fact, and I think we've done interviews with other agents who failed to follow up with closed clients. Again, we're back to the list again. Now the people that we've done transactions with, your experience with following up with previous clients and finding out their needs and making sure your referrals are set.
Well, I mean, I think that's just something you do. I mean, one of the things that we do is we send all of our new buyers a market analysis every 6 months, and then we call them to review it, and you ask if they want to review it. So, I mean, it can be little things like that. Like maybe it's once a year for you, but every 6 months, we prepare a CMA and send it to them with a nice little note and let them know that if you want to chat about this, that we're here. And we also make sure they get an email from us every 60 days or so, just reminding them that we're here for them. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be intense follow-up. You just want to remind them that you're there and that you're and offer them something of value. So, if you can learn how to do a CMA in 10 minutes and, you can do it in your pajamas watching football, at night or on the weekend, just do it and send them a quick note every 6 months. And, when they're ready to buy, or if they have a question about their value or they're thinking about doing this, you're going to be the natural go-to person for them. You should not assume that just because they did a transaction with you that they're going to choose you again.
Correct. I believe we did an interview with one of our agents, and she goes, it wasn't the first time, wasn't the second time. It was the third time somebody told me they went with someone else that I jumped on it. Well, you figured it out at some point. It was very important. Lastly, and by the way, the only issue I have with this article, these aren't ninja tips. These are common sense, I would think. Number 6, use open houses to your advantage. That should be a period at the end of it. He doesn't need to explain it, David. I know you're sitting there right now going, these are all common sense and this is the way you should do business. But clearly these are not common sense. Open houses. If I was a startup agent right now, if somebody came to me and said, what can I do right now? Take every open house period, even if it's somebody else's. Just go do it. Ask if you get the list. Ask if you get the people coming in. Go generate a list. And the best way to do it in this market, any market, a digital market, a COVID market, take the open house. Yes, the numbers are going to be down during COVID. I understand that. People might not want people in during, but COVID isn't going to be forever. Open houses are, it's clients in the bank. I don't want to use money as a term, but it is money in the bank to work open houses. No doubt about it. Your perspective on open houses?
Well, we're not allowed to do them right now, but when we can, I'll remind everybody that the purpose of the open house is not really to sell the house. I mean, yeah, that's your objective, is you want to sell the house. But at the end of the day, everybody who walks into that open house, even if your intent was to sell that house, what you're really trying to do is convert all those other people who don't buy the house into your client. And you do that by, chatting with them and understanding their needs. And so we do a couple of things that we think are really effective. Number one is that when we go do an open house, we take switch properties. So we come up with a list of alternative properties that are similar in location and price range and size. And we make sure, because it becomes very clear to somebody when they walk through an open house, whether or not they're interested in that house or they're not. If they're interested, they tell you they're interested, and if they're not, they just kind of slither out the front door and go on to the next thing. So I always like to gauge their body language and say, oh, not the right house for you, not the right fit, not for you, something like that, and they'll kind of acknowledge it. And I said, well, before you leave, because I knew this house wasn't going to be, it's a great house, but I knew it wasn't going to be everybody. I thought you might want to see these other 4 houses that are listed for sale nearby that are similar in size. Have you seen any of these? And next thing you know, you're having a conversation that could very well lead to you getting that transaction. We've had people say, no, I haven't seen it. I'd like to see it. And we say, well, the open house ends at 4. I can arrange to see it at 4:15 or 4:30. Would that work for you? All right, and then and next thing you know, we've got agents going from the open house to a showing at the end of the open house with somebody who came to that open house. So those are just some minor. There are some other things that we do, but that gives you an idea of one of the ways to work an open house with an intent to convert all those walk-ins into your buyers.
That's an assumptive close. Which takes us to our last segment, and I'm sorry I put you guys last. You don't deserve to be last. Our whole industry is based on you guys. This is for those of you that are homeowners that want to listen to this show. Yes, we've included a segment just for you. This is our tips for homeowners. This article came out of ladders.com, theladders.com. I want to talk about it because it's near and dear to me right now, and it's just tips for home. We're going to do it at the end of every show because we do have actual homeowners, and all of us are homeowners, for God's sake. So let's include that. So these are good tips for you. The world is going to Zoom for the foreseeable future right now, and maybe you don't know this. I'm a sound guy and a content guy, so this is something I've been dealing with for the last several weeks. I have lovely yellow on the wall because it looked great until I shot video, and as you can tell, it looks kind of moldy something behind. I don't know. This is the first time I turned the video on to look at it, and it's what a horrible color it is on video. But that's not what the topic is. We're now in a Zoom environment, David, and you're probably experiencing this as well. I have hardwood floors. The sound bounces off of everything, and if you want to sound professional on your Zoom meetings or look good, let me tell you the flood of websites and YouTube videos, and The Ladders has an article on this. Advice on how to soundproof your room. Let's talk about this. Do you have bounce back or issues with the floors in your home when you're recording, David?
Not that I'm aware of.
It doesn't sound like it. I haven't seen it. But when you walk around, can you hear an echo as you walk around? Do you have hardwood or do you have carpet?
Yes, I have hardwood, and I can hear an echo, when I'm walking through.
Well, here's a tip for you as a homeowner, David. I went to all the expansive trouble of reading all these articles for everybody, and there are price ranges. The very high end of the scale are something called sound panels, where basically you buy a panel from a company and you put them up on the wall. They look like artwork. They're extremely expensive. They're about $500 a panel. For one room, you'll probably need 4 or 5 panels to get the sound correctly. Now, carpet and bedding and furniture will sometimes offset it, but that will not work. Depends on the roof, depends on the bounce. Boy, I put a lot of effort into this. But if you want to come off as truly professional and you're on a budget, here is my advice. You can make sound panels relatively inexpensive. All you need to do is buy a frame or make a frame, right, out of 1x1 slats and fill them. This is going to be crazy because I watched a test on this, David. Regular towels you'd get at a thrift shop. Okay, so if you have a room that's got too much reverb or too much bounce and you don't have enough furniture to offset it, you can create a sound panel. Generally, you want them to be about mid-length of you can make them look like a large picture, basically. You can string a painting over the front of it, pack the back end with towels from a secondhand store. There is a great study about this online. Of course, I did all the homework. And you want to put about 6 or 7 secondhand or used towels behind the painting or the picture, or you can just go with a white panel and then seal up the back end and put 3 or 4 of those in the room, and they work better than foam. They work better than vertical. They seem to be competitive with the $500 panels, to be perfectly honest. And once I figured out the pricing on this, the difference is $20 a sound panel to $500 a sound panel, with the same, if not better, results based on the study that I watched. So if the echo is becoming too much, or people are commenting because you guys all are on Zoom meetings, there's a little tip for you, David. With all of that said, especially you homeowners, visit everhome.io. Experience the Everhome way and discover the benefits risk-free. Explore Everhome's easy-to-use listing service risk-free and begin your journey to sell your home like a realtor. Get the benefits of massive exposure, full-service representation for critical elements of the negotiation, legal forms, escrow, and title, all for one low-set fee.